Welcome to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan.
I'm James.
And I'm Callum.
And tonight we are talking about Yesterday. But first, just a quick note to start the show.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about Stranger Things Season 3 next week.
Yeah, so I'm sure everyone wants us to talk about this week, but because Spider-Man came out on Monday instead of Thursday, that took over last week's show and pushed our Yesterday review to this week, which has now pushed our Stranger Things review to next week because we didn't want to try to cram in both.
Stranger Things is too much to talk about.
We want to do a full proper show just on Stranger Things, so we thought...
it wouldn't be fair to... Yeah.
So, I mean, bloody Spider-Man releasing on the wrong day pushed everything back, and also meant that we had to see Yesterday just like a few hours ago because there was like no showings for it because it's not a superhero movie, so they only play it for like a week and then they're just like...
Off you go.
Off you go. See ya.
We technically did our part when we showed this movie.
Yeah. We released it. What else do you want?
Pretty good, though, that the cinema seemed to be pretty full.
It is school holidays.
Yeah, but still pretty good for such a small... Because it's not really... It's a child-friendly film, but it's not really a film that children will get a whole lot out of.
I mean, I think what's good about because if you've seen the trailer, you know, Yesterday is about a guy named Jack who's like a failed musician,
failed to launch.
Yeah, who can't get his career as a singer going. He gets hit by a bus and wakes up, and he's now in a world when the Beatles never existed.
But he remembers.
But he remembers them. No one else does. And so he passes their songs off as his own and, of course, immediately rises to massive success. I think just that premise alone is sort of engaging and interesting and
we get to listen to the Beatles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's accessible and like you were saying, like it's kind of kid friendly, but also like more, you know, for older people who, you know, like the Beatles. So like this is a movie mums would like, you know, like it's a movie everyone can enjoy.
Cal and myself's parents saw it. They enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Look, I think that if I was a child and I had to choose between Yesterday or Toy Story 4, I would enjoy both, but I would probably want to see Toy Story more.
No, exactly. It's not a kid's film, but what I'm saying is that premise that I just described...
No, what I mean is it's glad that even on school holidays we got to see a pretty full cinema for such a hipster movie.
Exactly that's what I'm getting at is it's not a hipster movie. It's a mainstream, light, breezy, comedy, romance, music film aimed at a wide audience that everyone can enjoy.
It was kind of released like a hipster movie, though.
Because it's not a superhero movie. You know?
So, I mean, you could argue if it's not by one of the big studios, it's a hipster movie.
I mean, at this point in time, maybe.
I'm not saying indie. I'm saying hipster as in it's a movie that is not a popcorn film.
Yeah, I mean, that's 90% of movies that aren't superhero movies or animated.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. So... yeah, like while it's not a mega release like Spider-Man was because it's not a superhero movie, it is a, you know, crowd-pleasing, you know, enjoyable, accessible film, which, I think they should have played it longer so more people could have seen it because now it's like after today...
How many showings were there for...
there was like
three
today, and then like after today, it's like there's like one like at 10 a.m. every morning, and then they get rid of it, you know? So like this is the kind of movie that even though, like I said, it's accessible, it's fun, it's family friendly,
hard to find the money for it.
It doesn't get an actual like a long release, a wide release, you know. It got a lot of advertising, but it didn't get a...
And that's the somewhat disappointing thing. Like, this movie, I can understand it if it got no marketing, it got no advertising, and then it didn't get shown very much. Yeah. That's one thing. You can somewhat understand that.
Yeah, if it's a really small indie film, but it's not.
They push this movie hard.
Yeah.
I saw lots of trailers, I saw posters.
And then they play it for a week. Yeah, because it's not a superhero movie or a kid's animated movie.
Look, be realistic, Hoyts. Don't push this film so hard if you're only going to show it a week because you know nobody will come.
Yeah.
Like, past that week.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just the way movie the business is now, you know, like because they know they're not going to make as much money, so they're just like, you know, we'll release it for a week, but then after that, who cares?
I wonder how...
But there are a lot of people like my mum who hasn't had the chance to see it yet, who probably won't get a chance to see it.
I wonder how well it did in England.
Yeah, I think
I'll look that
it's
up.
a very English film.
It's a very English
I feel
film.
like
Sometimes all like
No,
some of the I was saying
never do English.
I feel not in a bad way. I feel like
anyway.
in a way that like if this was an American film, it would be more loud, boisterous, dumb.
Well, there are some jokes that were very like there's a scene where three characters are on a plane.
Yeah.
And one of them is trying to make a joke.
It's in the trailer,
and,
yeah.
they kind of stand there awkwardly.
Yeah.
As he tries to come up with a witty response.
Yeah.
And that just reminded me of The Office.
Yeah, no, it's got that really good kind of dry British humor.
Awkward.
Yeah. So I mean, I want to get into spoilers because there's no point, you know.
Yeah. You know all the non-spoilery stuff already.
Basically, we told you the premise. It's a fun, light, family kind of, you know, it's got great music, obviously, Beatles tracks.
Beautiful.
Kind of like with Rocket Man, it's that really fun, energetic.
Yeah, the music kind of keeps you going.
Exactly. It's well paced. It's long, but it's well paced. All the performances are great. All the actors are great. It does fall into a lot of the kind of romance, rom-com trapping, the tropes. But it also does some things that are very different from those. So it's kind of a weird balancing act of like, oh, this is a bit cliche, but then it's like, nah, it does something completely different. But overall, it's really funny. It's fun.
Yeah, loved it.
It's accessible. And yeah, the music's really good, obviously. And I'd say check it out if it was still playing, but you can still find it. It's not a...
Yeah, look, I would definitely rent it if that's your style, or buy it, or
it's definitely
borrow
it. Yeah, definitely worth watching. Do you guys want to say anything else, or should we just go into full spoilers?
I looked at the box office figures for the UK specifically.
Yeah,
gearing that this movie probably might be more popular in the UK.
Oh, definitely,
it's an English film.
It's directed by Danny Boyle as well,
and written by Richard Curtis.
Okay.
It earned total box office figures for to the 8th of July. £5,620,000.
It's not a lot.
It's not bad for a smaller movie, I guess, but that puts it roughly in the same ballpark as Men in Black International, which is interesting.
That's good.
Given that's much more of a main sort of. Like
I guess it's
would be wider.
Judging on the kind of the success, because Men in Black International was a failure because it was supposed to be this mega blockbuster.
Yeah.
But Yesterday wasn't supposed to be a mega blockbuster, so I guess it's in comparison, it's like Yesterday is quite successful.
It's that sort of middling of like, well, they wanted Men in Black to be this all-encompassing globe hit, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And Yesterday was never intended to be that, but it did quite well at home, and so they are roughly they're around the same ballpark.
Yeah, but yeah, I think Yesterday is. It's not an indie film by any stretch.
No, Richard Curtis and Danny Boyle.
But it's a smaller kind of film. It's not meant to be your big blockbuster. But yeah, it's good.
It's good.
Check it out. It's got Beatles music, so
And the main character, the main actor. Sorry, I forget his name.
Himesh Patel.
He's one of our mum's favourite actors from the EastEnders soap opera.
This is his first movie, I think. This first big movie, and he's really good, and especially because he does all the singing. So he does a pretty good job.
Got some pipes on him.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Yeah. It's a good movie. Check it out.
Don't let it be.
Don't leave it be.
Don't leave it be.
Leave it be.
What's the new song? Let him be. No, leave
it be.
So yeah, should we go on to spoilers?
Definitely.
All right. So we're going to do full spoilers for the new movie Yesterday, the Beatles movie. If you don't know what we're talking about, it's the Beatles movie.
Yeah, it's a comedy rom-com.
Yeah, but it's like if you say
Beatles music.
If you say I saw Yesterday, and people are like, what? And you go the Beatles movie.
You did what yesterday?
Yeah. If you say the Beatles movie, then people might get. But yeah. Spoiler warning for Yesterday. If you haven't seen Yesterday, full spoiler warning.
John Lennon is dead.
John Lennon,
spoiler alert,
in real life is dead, but in the movie,
also Paul McCartney is allegedly dead via conspiracy theories.
But he died like before they replaced him, right? Like
yeah.
Anyway, let me finish the spoiler warning because we're now getting to the spoilers in the spoiler warning. Full spoiler warning. I mean, it doesn't really matter now because we're at the end of the spoiler warning. But if you want to skip ahead to the rest of the show and the other conversations we'll have, you can do that in the podcast description. All right. So
my first question is, did they have to license the rights to the music, or did they get a free pass because Jack sings them himself?
They would have had to license.
You definitely have to pay, even if someone who's not.
Because I suppose it's the lyrics, right?
Yeah, if you're covering a song, you still have to have the license to play it.
So like you wouldn't maybe have to pay as much as if you actually played a Beatles song, but you still have to pay the rights to perform the lyrics and the melody and so on. Yeah, that's
why. Like, I'm wondering if they had some type of agreement, or if they had to pay full price for each individual song.
Well, it's like we keep talking. This is not an indie movie, like, so they would have put the money into that regardless of how much it would cost.
And that would also help. Like, it's a smaller movie, so the rest of the budget wouldn't have been that high.
Yeah,
like although
I think it's like a romantic. Like, one thing I will say, because it's Danny Boyle, he's just a really good director, really energetic, and he does these really interesting visual things. But also the crowd scenes.
They were really good.
Really, really good. Especially like Rocket Man, which we really liked. Crowd scenes are usually just dark CGI in the background, so you don't really get a good look at anything.
It almost felt like there was one scene in the movie where it's Jack and he's performing at an Ed Sheeran concert.
Yeah.
It was like, was this a legit Ed Sheeran concert?
I feel like
they sort of paused for a second and be like, look, Danny Boyle's recording a movie. Yeah. Here's here's this actor performing a few Beatles songs. Yeah. Go hide.
They probably would have been like free Ed Sheeran concert, and then everyone came in and they're like, all right, we're going to film, sign a thing as they're coming in the door, sign a thing, we're going to be filmed.
Because like, why do you need CG? If Ed Sheeran's on board, you don't need CG, just get him to play a gig.
Yeah. But I mean, it's not just the one concert, it's like several concert scenes with huge crowds, which I'm assuming were augmented with CGI, but looked all fantastic.
For some reason I assumed it was all legit.
Well, I think, this is the problem with movies in 2019 is almost no one, except for maybe Nolan, does full crowds of people.
I'm a simple man. If our boy Peter Jackson can get all those many people to fight in a fake war, but someone can get. I mean, you know what I mean. Someone can get some people into a stadium.
Even that was like largely, augmented with CGI, obviously. But like that
they weren't real orcs. What are you talking about?
That was also a special case of like.
Just genius.
Yeah, like Peter Jackson going like, I'm not going to use all... And then you get to the... We always talk about this. You get to the Hobbit and it's full CGI crap.
Moving back to
Danny Boyle, I think Danny Boyle, he's someone who uses quite a bit of CGI from memory in some of his films, but he's generally good enough at blending it in. And anyway, in this case...
It's good.
The crowd scenes are really impressive, and I feel like they did get a lot of people in. But the other behind-the-scenes green screen CGI stuff, it's blended in so well, you don't notice it like you do in other films.
And the actual performances are really good too.
Yeah.
Like him actually playing, he has some good chops on him.
Like, this is like a hard role. Like, casting Taron Egerton as Elton John, like that's a hard role to cast. Because it's like, who do you get to play Elton John? Who do you get to mimic Elton John? This movie, I guess... They don't have to cast a Beatle. So it's easier, quote unquote.
Yeah, but you still need someone with the charisma.
Yeah, who's charismatic and who's likable and who's good at singing to do justice to the Beatles songs.
But he's also a really good actor too.
Yeah, no, he's really good. Everyone in the movie is really good. Lily James plays the Ellie, the love interest, and... Ed Sheeran plays Ed Sheeran.
His performance was pretty good for Ed Sheeran.
Yeah. Like, I was like, I mean, he's not great, but also,
for someone who's not a professional actor.
Yeah, no, he does all right.
I like it. I love it when he's first. So he's introduced to the film after Jack Malik starts releasing songs
the main character,
on his own.
Yeah,
and Ed Sheeran's like, I really like this guy. I'm local, so he visits Jack's house and he knocks on the door.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Hi, I'm Ed Sheeran." And the response is like,
"Mum is just like,
okay, there's someone here to see you, Jack." And this is like Ed Sheeran standing in some dude's house. It is hilarious.
And I like how they're having that conversation in the kitchen, and the dad's just like, "Don't mind me."
Oh, he's so funny to death.
Oh, man.
He's another EastEnders alumni.
Yeah. Well, it's Sanjeev, right?
Sanjeev Bhaskar.
Yeah, like he's hilarious. Remember that show, The Kumars?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy's hilarious. And he's the best. He's hilarious in this film because he plays the dorky dad. The bit where he goes in the green room and they have all the sandwiches.
Oh, he takes the tuna.
Yeah, he's like, I see you have 2 plates of sandwiches. He's like, he's like, oh yeah, take it. He's like, what a day, what a great day. He's so excited.
Yeah, the best day.
Yeah. So good. No, everyone's good. I guess, like, what should we go through the whole film or?
So the broad strokes is Jack is trying to get his career started, his singing career, not started, he's trying to get it going.
Yeah.
And essentially he gets hit, there's a rolling blackout.
He's doing like pub performances and like no one cares about his original
It's like the
songs.
opposite of Rocket Man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Somehow God decides he wants to remove the Beatles.
Yeah, so there's a rolling...
Or remove their success.
We don't know. There's no explanation.
There's a rolling blackout, and during this blackout, Jack gets hit by a bus.
The entire world electricity blacks out.
The amount of power needed to remove the Beatles' body of work from the world and everyone's minds blacks out the world. Whatever force does it, it needs all the electricity in the world to remove it. It's that powerful.
So essentially, Jack finds himself the only person he knows
he gets hit by a bus
who remembers the Beatles.
Wakes up.
So he gets a new guitar. His friends buy him a new guitar because his one was destroyed, assumedly in the crash. Yeah, no. And so his friends buy him a new guitar, and he says, well, a pretty guitar needs a pretty song.
Yeah.
He plays a Beatles song. Everyone's very impressed. Like, when did you write that one?
Yeah.
And so he's like, what do you mean? And so he thinks it's a joke.
Yeah.
But it turns out no one remembers the Beatles. No one remembers cigarettes. No one remembers Coca-Cola.
Well, that's a funny thing, because at first it's just no one remembers the Beatles. Then he starts singing the Beatles songs and passing them off as his own. And then he's like, can I have a Coke? And they're like, what? And he realizes like only Pepsi exists in this city. And then later he's like, oh, I wish I didn't give up smoking. I would kill for a cigarette. And his friend's like, what's a cigarette? And he realizes that there are other little things missing, which is a funny little
and Harry
quirk.
Potter.
Yeah, Harry Potter.
And he looks up Oasis and he's like, wait, of course?
Yeah, he's like, Oasis doesn't exist. He's like, of course.
So essentially he finds mega success.
There's that bit we all liked where he's like, he runs home when he realizes that no one remembers the Beatles. He's like pulling all his records off the shelf to find the Beatles, and he can't find them. And he's like looking on the records on the floor. He's like, stop it.
He points at the bookcase. He's like,
it's
stop
so aggressively English.
Yeah.
It's like, stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah, so he finds, basically he records all the Beatles songs. He gets mega successful.
Yeah, well, one thing I like about it, because in the trailer, this is all shown in the trailer, but it's like, I like in the movie that he struggles to remember them.
Yeah, the lyrics.
Honestly, like when it comes to movies, I can remember a lot, but when it comes to songs, I can't remember any lyrics.
No, me neither.
Now he's a musician, so he and he loves the Beatles, so he's better at that. But I still like that there's a struggle for him to sort of remember the words.
He gets some of the words wrong, but it doesn't matter because the song feels the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and there's that scene where
no one knows he got the words wrong.
There's that scene where he's at the dentist. And the dentist's I got by with little help from my friends.
Yeah.
And he remembers
He gets so excited, you see his feet moving.
There's another...
he laughs.
He does... when he's walking down they're walking... the bit where he's walking with Ellie through the tunnel, and they're like yelling and dancing and, carrying on, having fun. And he's like yelling hello into the tunnel, and then he realizes goodbye hello, like he hasn't done that song yet. And he like sees the goodbye hello text... Like, because Danny Boyle does this cool thing with like the words like coming down the tunnel,
like a vehicle coming at you.
Yeah, and he's like, I remember that song.
Yeah. So essentially, the broad strokes of the story are he gets very successful, but he finds that he still has. Yeah, with the help of Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran hears his music, like they record in his own words.
Yeah,
I like how he can take the piss. I also like how like they have that like song battle, and like Jack clearly wins because he uses a Beatles song.
Super salty about it.
And Ed is just like, yep, all right, I
guess I'm no one.
Yeah, it's like I was always told there would be someone better than me. I guess you're it. It's like I'm going to bed.
Yeah,
but he feels like a cheat though.
Yeah,
at the end of it.
Yeah,
he
also has a massive hole in his life, the romantic side.
Yeah. So Ellie is
Ellie-shaped hole.
Is his friend from school who became his manager, even though he never went anywhere. But they never got together romantically, even though there was,
feelings.
Yeah. And now that he's super successful, he gets another manager and goes off on, adventures, and she stays back home, and then he realizes that there's something missing from, his life, and also the fact that he feels like a fraud because he didn't actually write any of these songs.
So while coping with the massive success, he gets to a point in the story where he realizes there are two other people who remember the Beatles.
Oh no, they find him.
I like that, where there are like these people you see in the background who are like kind of quote unquote stalking him.
And he's worried that he's going to get found out or he's going to get arrested or like really bad consequences are going to come of it.
Yeah.
But it turns out they're just really goddamn happy that they can hear these songs again, and they're his biggest fans.
And they're like, we're so happy that, because we're the only three people who remember the Beatles in the world. It's like, we're just happy that you're bringing the music to life.
That was a really nice moment.
Yeah.
And then they're like, look, don't feel bad because we've done a bit of research. And they send him to like a clue.
Yeah.
And so he takes this journey. You don't know where it is. It's like I guess it's still in the UK somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere.
It's like a coast.
English
he's
coast.
driving to a coast somewhere.
Little house on the beach.
And he knocks on the door, and we think it's going to be Paul McCartney or Ringo.
Yeah.
And we're like, are they going to make a cameo? Like, there's going to have to be a cameo.
There's a bit in the movie where he, because he's so successful, Jack goes on the James Corden show.
It was a nightmare, yeah.
Yeah, and then James Corden's like, well, do you write these songs all by yourself? And he's like, yeah, of course. And he's like, well, I have two people here who say they wrote it. He's like, here's Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr. And then, we see the feet, just a foot shot of the people walking out. You don't see them. I'm like, oh, here's the cameo, because everyone's expecting a cameo. And then Jack wakes up and it was a nightmare. But I'm like, okay, we're going to get the Paul and Ringo cameo, right? Like, of course they're going to be in this movie. Danny Boyle, I'm assuming,
would have enough connections.
Is probably even friends with them. But yeah, they
knocks on the door.
Yeah, they send him to this house. He knocks on the door and you think, oh, it's Paul or Ringo.
And it's John Lennon.
Fucking John Lennon opens the door.
I know. We were like, I knew he wasn't dead. I knew all this time. It was a fake out.
That was like the best of like sort of threw us off.
Yeah,
that was a really cool little twist.
Yeah,
and it was cast reasonably well.
Well, because we were shocked when the door opened because it looks like a
it looks like an older John Lennon,
8-year-old version.
Very well
John
done
Lennon.
prosthetics or whatever.
And we were like, wow. And then when he turns to the side, you can tell it's like prosthetics and makeup. But I'm pretty sure it's Robert Carlyle who...
Big B?
who Danny Boyle has obviously worked with before. But yeah, it's really convincing, especially that first when he opens...
It looked really good. We were just like...
Yeah.
Like that Pikachu shocked meme.
78-year-old John Lennon.
Yeah. And Jack is ecstatic because he's like, you lived your whole life.
Yeah.
But it comes off really weird.
Yeah. And he's like, who? Yeah. And then John's like, who's this guy? Like,
now, so it should be noted that after he gets big, he spends a big chunk every now and again. He'll get out the Eleanor Rigby lyrics and he'll try and remember.
Yeah.
I thought it would have been a really great moment in the film if he shows the incomplete lyrics to a live fake John Lennon.
Yeah.
And John Lennon's like, well, obviously... And then he fills out the lyrics.
Fills in, yeah.
He doesn't know what it is, but he's like, this sounds right to me. And then
you can have one song attributed to Jack Malik and John Lennon.
Yeah, like I thought that would have been really sweet.
And people are like, who? Who's this old guy who helped him write this song?
But it doesn't happen.
That's one weird thing about this movie is they keep bringing up Jack can't remember the lyrics to Eleanor Rigby, and he keeps trying, and he has these little visions in his head about the lyrics.
Something
and the
they're trying to set up, but they have no intention on delivering.
Yeah, there's no payoff for that. There's also like
the Wonderwall as well.
Because when they were in school, Jack sang Wonderwall at his like school talent show, and Ellie was like, that's when
she was backstage.
Yeah, watching, and that's when she became his biggest fan, and that's when they eventually, she became his manager, and that's when they started having feelings with each other, even though they never acted on those feelings. But now that Oasis doesn't exist, we kept waiting for... He's going to play Wonderwall at a moment. He's going to try to pass that off as his own song or whatever. And then as the movie gets going and, Ellie, tells Jack, I had feelings for you, but you never acted on them. I'm going. And I'm like, okay, eventually he's going to play Wonderwall as the song that... And then it's connected to her, and then she's going to remember the past world where everything existed, but that never happens either.
Yeah, so there's some little threads that they try to introduce.
It's weird.
That's why I'm wondering if
it's not bad. It's just kind of like, why set those things up?
That's why I'm wondering if for some reason they had to tighten up the movie, so there's some scenes were left on the cutting room floor.
Maybe, yeah.
Like, I'd be interested in seeing what is included in a director's cut. Like, or what deleted scenes there are on like the Blu-ray release or what have you.
Yeah.
Because I'd love to see him performing Wonderwall or Eleanor Rigby.
Yeah.
Or maybe even an extended John Lennon scene. Maybe, but you know.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just weird that they kind of, you think they're setting this up and they don't pay it off.
Yeah.
I think my biggest problem with the movie is that at the end of the day, the movie is not about the Beatles. It's not about the gimmick or the premise of the Beatles, you know,
it's
no one knows they
vehicle.
existed. It's just a vehicle to tell the love story between Jack and Ellie. For me, it's not bad, it's just kind of the most cliche.
It's weak, yeah.
It's the weakest part of the movie.
Because the problem is, she says, well, you never told me you loved me, you never acted on that or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is, I think they say 10 years. You had 10 years to act on these feelings. But it's like she also had 10 years to act on these feelings.
Exactly.
Like, yes, I understand that in traditional society, the man makes the move, the man does his part. But it takes her how much effort to say, oh, by the way, do you want to go on a date?
It's
problem resolved.
It's also like this is at the point in the film where he's so super famous and he has to go on back to LA, and they're in England, and he has to go back to LA, and she's like, oh, I'm a school teacher here. If you love me, you'll stay and not go on your huge LA tour. And he's like, no, I have to go. And I'm like, yeah, this is so cliche and weak. And
lady, if this was the real world, she would quit her job and move
it's
to
like,
LA.
why didn't she quit her job and move with him if they're so in love? Like,
also,
it's not a...
It's like, you can have a middle ground, right? You can have a conversation. There is compromise. It's not a zero-sum game.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, like, you know what I mean? Like, she could say, okay, you go on this and we'll have a serious discussion when you're done with this tour, when you have a moment to breathe.
Yeah.
Until then, I won't see anyone else, but we have to figure this out.
Yeah. It's just like, it's a really weak part of an otherwise really enjoyable movie because it's just it's so cliche and old-fashioned.
I agree.
Yeah, it's just like they could have very, very easily tweaked it just so maybe she keeps trying to go out with him, but he's like, no, it's weird, or just something.
Or something just keeps coming up.
Yeah.
Like, there were points in this movie where were a bit frustrating. Like, there were 3 or 4 points in this movie where he had the perfect opportunity. Like, there was the perfect setup for them to resolve that issue.
Yeah.
And it just didn't happen.
Yeah, no.
Like, they could have done something more interesting involving the Beatles or...
There's also, like, you know, we're saying this part of the movie's cliche, but there's no real moments where Jack is, like, fawning over Ellie.
Yeah,
like,
that's
you never
true.
get the sense that he's really, like, you only get the sense that she's in love with him when she says
it. There's no real heartbreak moment for him necessarily.
Exactly. And then it's only later that he realizes that he loves her, and, you know.
Yeah, but we didn't see much of that.
No, exactly. So, like
the audience sort of is guessing it's the case because it's a rom-com, but we didn't see that.
No, exactly. They needed that. They need to set that up earlier when he's a struggling musician. Like, they need to set up that
More
will they,
intimate
won't
moments,
they?
yeah.
There's no will they, won't they moments until very late in the film when she's like, if you love me, you'll stay. And I'm like, wait, what? He's the Beatles. He's all of the Beatles now.
That's a lot of pressure, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a lot of pressure, but also you can screw it up because no one actually knows.
So there's like 2 people who can call you out.
Yeah, those 2,
and they're better off with you than without you.
I like the bit where the record company's going through the albums.
Oh yeah,
and
I don't like it.
Yeah, it's like here are the album names that Jack has come up. You know, the
Sgt.
White Album, the Sgt. Pepper's one. It's like, yeah.
The White Album is problematic.
Yeah.
It's like, why?
What?
And they always come up with the most generic name titles, like One Man Only.
Yeah.
It's like, that is the most generic album title ever. Like,
I like how, I mean, Kate McKinnon's character is like so spot on because it's just like how slimy the record company and record executives are.
Usually I'm not that much of a fan of her, but she did well in this movie.
It's because she was comedic, but her role wasn't like comedic in the same way that it was in Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
It was
No, but
more serious. It was more of a serious delivery, which I think worked for her.
The thing with Kate McKinnon is she's hilarious. She's really good. It's just she's in a lot of terrible movies.
Yeah, and also,
but when she actually gets a good movie to shine,
one of the reasons I don't approve of the rebooted Ghostbusters movie was because, from what I understand, they didn't have a script. It was all ad-libbed, which is fine for SNL.
You can't remake a classic like Ghostbusters and just be like, we're going to put women in it, and if you don't like it, you're sexist.
And there's no script.
Yeah, but also like, we're gonna.
No. My point was, in this film, it's not ad libbed. I feel like it's definitely a script. So that's I think. I think she works well when she's got material to work with, and I'm sure her and Danny Boyle, discussed it because she's a comedian herself. Yeah. But I think she can deliver a very good performance.
Oh no, yeah, she's always been good. It's just she's in terrible movies, and I mean, this is another reason why I think this. I mean, thank God this movie is British. All the best bands are British anyway, so you can't really do this with an American band, maybe.
No, I can't think of one. I mean, like the Eagles.
No one's as big as the Beatles,
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Like, and all the other bands you could do it with are also British, like the Stones,
Zeppelin.
But I think what I like about
Bob Dylan, but then Bob Dylan, he's very influential, but he does sell out stadiums, but not for the same reason.
I guess Elvis, Michael Jackson,
Elvis would work,
Prince,
MJ.
Yeah.
We got a message from a listener.
What?
Elise says the Tuesday review tackles feminism in rom-coms. That wasn't necessarily our intention.
I didn't.
Well, I mean,
feminism. Oh, do you mean the whole? It's the
with Ellie. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's a fair point, right?
No, but that's
true.
Fair because also, Elise, are you listening live? Don't listen live.
She must be. That's
cheating.
Sometimes men aren't the best at picking up signals anyway. So I think sometimes some people like Jack need a little more assistance.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, I hate to use this argument, but it's 2019.
I know.
Rom-coms are now kind of creepy.
I think that's the problem I have with the gender flipping of high fidelity for TV. Because it's the only really male rom-com.
The whole point of High Fidelity is a chick flick for guys.
Yeah, it's a subversion.
Yeah.
And so, I think we talked about this a while ago on the show. It's like you subvert a subverted idea, and it just becomes
generic.
But anyway,
spectacular.
The rom-com genre, I think, needs to go through a big, what do you call it? Reconstruction. That's not the right word.
It needs to be brought up to date a little bit.
Yeah, it needs to,
because traditionally they're not. It's not some of the rom-com play. It's not a level playing field.
Yeah,
there are dynamics between the man and the woman that usually remain pretty much the same. Yeah. In all of rom-com.
Well, do you think Pretty Woman would get released today?
Oh man. I mean,
it would, but
maybe a different version.
Most
it'd be more straight.
Yeah, most rom-coms, even recent ones, just haven't aged well. That being said, even ones that came out 10 years ago.
Love Actually was pretty good in that way.
I've never seen it.
Love Actually. It's probably one of the.
Everyone's like, you have to watch it. You have to watch it.
It's probably one of the best.
I'm like, I don't want to watch it.
No, it handles it well, but this film handles it stupidly.
Yeah,
to get back on.
It's still a good. It's still a good movie. Yeah, but it's
just poorly thought out.
Yeah, it's kind of a weak point to an otherwise good film, but it's like, I mean, what I was getting at before about how I'm glad it's British is because of the humor. Because if you made an American movie like this,
it'd run the risks of just being a bit crass.
Yeah, it would be a kind of Judd Apatow-esque kind of, like Melissa McCarthy, more jokes, more.
I'm not sure
more dick and fart jokes.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is the right word, but the Englishness of the movie makes it more dignified.
Yeah, and it makes it funnier than just
because a lot of the comedy is kind of also awkward.
Yeah, that's another reason it might not have done so well.
Yeah,
because cringe comedy isn't for everyone.
But also, I think because it refocuses the movie back on the kind of the love story and Jack's internal struggle. That's what's interesting about it. It's not a fart comedy. It's not.
Not that we have a problem.
I like my dumb jokes as much as anyone else, but I think. Yeah,
this is not the film for it.
It has a level of sophistication that you might not find.
Mr.
Oh, okay.
Sophistication might enjoy from the House of Jack.
Don't get me started. But yeah, like, but also in saying that, those elements, you know, in the terms of the romance elements, are what also lets the movie down.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's good that the movie has such a great back catalogue of music to draw from.
Yeah,
because every time the movie starts to dip, you get re-engaged and he'll play a new song.
It's like
there were some songs I forgot. I forgot about them, and I'm like, I remember, you know, I
it's
know
like
that
Rocket
one.
Man, where it's like the energy of the music, the greatness of the classic songs
catalog,
is what, you know, keeps the movie going. Because, you know, the movie's like, it's a solid 2 hours. Like, it's not a 90-minute film. Like, it
takes its time.
It's quite a long journey. But yeah, it's like, you know, when you've got Beatles songs, arguably some of the greatest songs ever, you know, like, that's going to keep your energy up. And that's why Himesh Patel does such a great job as well, because he's the one performing them, and yet it's still a Beatles song. Like, it's still got that I love the goosebumps, you know, the hair tingle on the back of your
love
neck.
how they kind of play with that when he starts playing Let It Be in his living room for his parents.
Yeah.
And every time he starts, and you think, oh, he's going to perform it, I'm kind of, you know, I'm excited, I want to hear how it sounds.
Yeah.
There'll be a disruption.
One thing I really like about the movie is that he knows the greatness of the Beatles. Yeah. He knows you don't disrespect the Beatles.
Everyone
else thinks he's just making up a song,
and he's being really egotistical about it.
So he starts yelling at them about how important this is and how this is the greatest song ever written. And they're like, all right, bit of an ego on you.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you don't understand. I think that's really funny. I guess we should also talk about the ending, which I find really interesting and raises a lot of interesting questions.
Yeah, so all of us assumed this was one of those movies where he goes through the self-journey, he wakes up from his coma, because we assumed that after he got hit by the bus, he was actually in a coma and this was all in his coma dreamland. Yeah. So I assumed he would wake up, be like, oh, Elle, I've wronged you, you know, let's get married, settle down, rah, rah, rah. But it doesn't happen that way.
No. The way these movies with these kinds of premises usually go is that there's a point where the character realizes what they did or didn't do in their previous life before the event, and they kind of wake up back where they were and they rectify that problem.
It's like the click thing.
With Adam Sandler, yeah.
That terribly depressing film.
That was such a weird movie.
That's very weird. We should do an episode of it.
It was so sad. I saw it once. That's it.
All right.
Anyway,
it's when you have that premise, it's like now we go back and we fix things in the normal world. Whereas this movie stays in the alternate reality and ends in the alternate reality.
So it's basically the main reality.
Yeah, it becomes...
It's not really explained.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the world...
Is it an alternate reality situation, or is it a permanent change to the one universe?
It's not explained.
But it's just like now the world without the Beatles, the world without Coca-Cola, the world without cigarettes and Harry Potter is now the world that exists. Like, there's no moment where he wakes up from a coma. There's no moment, like, because I thought he was going to play Wonderwall to Ellie. Ellie's going to be like, I remember now. And then the world was going to magic. Like, I thought there was some magic involved. And everything was going to go back to how it was. But no. That never happens. He admits his love to Ellie while on stage performing in front of, you know, thousands of people. And then they get together and there's like a montage of him and her starting a family and sort of...
Yeah, and it ends with him playing a song for school children.
Yeah, and it's like he goes back to teaching, which they talk about in the movie, how, you know, he's going to quit music and go back to teaching. And then
it's all right to do that when you're... I'm sure he's a multimillionaire.
Is he though?
See, this is another thing I like about the movie is that at the end he's like... this is not my work. I didn't write any of these songs. You people don't remember the Beatles, but I do. These aren't my songs. So I'm going to release all these songs for people to enjoy and get the enjoyment out of them like they should, but all for free.
But how much money would he earn from touring?
I mean, yeah, he'd have a little bit in his back pocket, and you know, he's friends with Ed Sheeran, so he could call him up and be like, "I'll write you a new song."
Look, I mean, we're gonna get a bit meaty here, but also let's not pretend he wouldn't have got sued.
Yeah.
After he gave all the music away for free, and he probably
by the record company.
Yeah, he probably interrupted a few contracts as well, so he probably lost a fair bit of that money in court.
But I think the whole point of the movie, like I keep saying, it's not the Beatles stuff; it's the love story, and the whole point is he would give up anything to be with her, everything to be with Ellie. But it's interesting that after that realization, I thought it was going to reverse back in time, or he was going to wake up and he was going to have nothing. The Beatles would be back. He was going to be another failed musician, and he'll be like, I don't need any of that. I just need Ellie. But it doesn't happen. He still stays in that world.
Yeah.
I wonder if Danny Boyle just couldn't do it. He just couldn't do the sappy ending.
Well, see, I kind of like that he didn't do the cliche thing. He did the cliche thing with the romance, but he didn't do the cliche thing with the sci-fi kind of fantasy aspect. But one thing, because I mean, if Jack did go back and he was a failed musician and he did give up music and for Ellie and it was like the Beatles come back, he's now poor again, and him and Ellie get together at the end. Like, what would that say about giving up your dreams? Like, I feel like if he did go back, he should have kept trying with his music. Because, being a teacher, that's fine, that's important, But really, at the end of the day, that's his giving up.
Yeah, exactly. I think it sends an interesting message, doesn't it?
Also, I guess, because he's performing music for the kids, I guess you could say, well, he's still doing what he loves, he's just doing it for other people. He's doing it for the younger generation.
He already made his impact by releasing the Beatles music.
In some light, you could say that he did achieve his dream.
And also, he could probably get a spot on any late night show for a performance if you know what I mean. Like,
he could do a comeback tour.
Yeah, I think
here's songs from Oasis. Here's Champagne Supernova, Don't Look Back in Anger and Wonderwall.
Well, exactly. He could now do all the Oasis songs, and people would be like, "Wow, this is his like."
He can find out what other bands he remembers.
Yeah, this is his like. What do you call it? 90s garage. What do you call it? What's it?
Grunge.
Grunge. Yeah, like Britpop era. Kind of.
So it's like, I understand that he gave up his dreams after already achieving peak celebrity.
Yeah.
Like literally peak celebrity.
Yeah.
Like women chasing after you down the street kind of celebrity. Yeah. But also, if he ever needed money, he could probably get it pretty easy.
Yeah.
Like outside of the teaching.
But like we said, money's not important to him. And that's not the point. But I just thought...
But this film has zero compromise. You know what I mean? It's like either you give up your dreams to be with Elle, or you're on your own, you be a superstar. And that's what happens in the end. He essentially just gives it all up again anyway.
I mean, again, that's kind of the cliche. It's like you become a superstar, but you alienate yourself. You isolate yourself. But I'm like...
So the message of this movie, kids, give up all your dreams for women.
Yeah. That's kind of like what I'm like, why can't you have both? Or why can't there be a balance between having big success and also finding love? Obviously you want to be humble. You don't want to let it go to your head. Money isn't everything. But you don't want to give up on your dreams. Like, I don't know. I don't think the movie's intentionally saying give up on your dreams, but it's just a weird kind of thing.
Yeah, it's awkward, But
also, because it does end in that alternate reality, it asks more interesting questions, because it's like, well, it didn't just go back and now everything's fine and back to the way it is. It's kind of like the world is still changed.
It'd be interesting if 20 years after this film ends, right, there's another blackout and suddenly everyone remembers the Beatles.
That would be interesting.
It's like, what does that mean for his...
Well, Trainspotting 2 came out like 20...
Can we get a sequel?
Something years after... So, Danny Boyle and 20...
Yesterday 2, Return of the Beatles.
Well, also, this movie... I mean, I don't know if maybe it originally was or whatever, but it should be called All You Need Is Love, because that's that's the message of the movie.
Yeah.
That's literally the message of the movie. All you need is love.
Would you do the check quote?
Oh, yes. Send us a check.
But seriously, that's actually a much better title than Yesterday.
That's why, it's like...
And it sums up the movie perfectly, right? All You Need Is Love.
That's why that's why I feel like the movie might have originally been called that. Oh, there isn't All You Need Is Love that came out last year.
Oh, lame.
Oh, wait, no. Yeah, no, it was a rom-com that came out last year.
Ah, lame. That probably explains it.
Yeah.
Well, that's disappointing.
But still, they could have overwritten... Like, no one would remember that movie.
I mean, they could have called... I mean, what other titles are there?
There's also...
Let It Be would... but even then, that's...
Yeah.
Hey, Dude.
Hey, Dude.
Ed Sheeran, you ruin everything. You ruined the greatest song of all time. No one needs your input.
No, but overall, there are some problematic elements with the sort of writing of the romance.
Yeah.
But it's a good movie. It's funny. The music's great. I would recommend it.
Yeah, it's definitely,
easily recommend.
It's definitely enjoyable, even though it has flaws. And Danny Boyle's just like I feel like another director might not have done so well.
Yeah, I mean, the only person who could probably do a better job is Nolan. But you can say that
Nolan would not fit this film at all. Nah. Like this is so far from what Nolan's wheelhouse.
Do you think Nolan can't make a good rom-com?
I think that's a waste of his talent.
Yeah, and now I want to see a Nolan rom-com.
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
but it would have to be like a
heist, like a heist rom-com or
some massive twist,
like a sci-fi. I would like to see that, but I think a problem. Yeah, see, a problem is people like a filmmaker and they go, well, what this film needed a better director. Oh, and then they just say Nolan or Kubrick, but it's like Nolan and Kubrick would not fit this film any day of the week.
It's not their ballpark.
Yeah, this is not. They should not be attached. Even though I love them, they should not be attached to this film in any alternate timeline, future, whatever. So there's certain directors that are great. That
you know who would do a good job?
That don't suit certain films.
You know who would do a really good job, but they would never let him make it because obviously it's 2019. Woody Allen.
Yeah.
They wouldn't give it to him.
This is a Woody Allen-esque kind of movie, like Purple Rose of Cairo.
If we were going to have an American version, I think he's the guy to do it. You know what I mean? Like, again, 2019, probably can't get away with having Woody do anything anymore.
Yeah.
I'd want to see this movie done. Yeah, if we have to do an American version of this movie, it'd be Bob Dylan. Someone recording Bob Dylan's original tracks,
Coen Brothers kind of inside Llewyn Davis.
What about Scorsese? Because he's big on the music.
Nah, I think that's different. I don't think he's.
I mean, he'd do a good job, but
scope, I don't know. I feel like it's too small in scope for Scorsese. If that almost makes sense.
Oh no, he could do it, but it's just that kind of romance. Depends on what the romance element is. Like, this is definitely more of a straight-laced kind of romantic comedy with fantasy music elements. But but Danny Boyle's really good. And can we talk about James Bond?
Yeah, can we? Go for it. I want to see his James Bond 25.
Yeah, well, see. He was. I think we've talked about this before.
Have you seen the quick little scenes and snippets we've seen of Bond 25 yet?
No, I didn't know that they were released.
Yeah, there's a couple of backstage.
I saw some things on Instagram of just pictures of Daniel Craig looking buff.
No, there's some pictures. There's a little bit of footage in a nightclub.
Okay.
It's of them shooting, so it's not
behind
actual,
the scenes.
It's technically behind the scenes, but some of it's really almost maybe from the film.
Okay.
And there's something like a club in is it Jamaica?
Oh yeah, they're filming in Jamaica.
It looks really good.
Okay, yeah.
Sort of the makeup and the costumes all look really good.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Not all the Daniel Craig movies are the best.
Spectre, the opening Day of the Dead sequence, that was impressive, but that movie didn't turn out so well.
Still haven't seen it.
You're still in the Roger Moore era. You're so far behind.
I'll get there before the new movie.
Don't worry. You still got a year. But yeah, so Danny Boyle was supposed to direct the next Bond film, and what was interesting was that he came to them
with an idea
and said, I have a really good idea, and he brought his own writer in, and they were working on it, and apparently what the rumor was that Daniel Craig didn't like who Danny Boyle was going to cast as a villain, and they sort of had creative differences, as is the norm, and Danny Boyle left. But there were also rumors was that Danny Boyle was going to kill off Bond at the end, which I am 100% for. I think that would be really interesting.
Forced reboot!
Especially because you're going to reboot it anyway, and there's no real hard canon or timeline for the Bond films. So I think making the Daniel Craig films a sort of its own Dark Knight trilogy and sort of saying...
Yeah.
The Craig films are its own thing. He starts and ends here. And then just rebooting it with another actor and just not mentioning any of the death or anything.
That would be amazing.
And just start. Don't do another origin story. Yeah. Just literally have the next actor walk into M's office. M goes, here's a mission.
Yeah.
And the movie plays out. And you just never mention that.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about it.
It's never connected. It's its own separate timeline. Dope. Yeah. That would have been interesting. But of course, no one wants to take risks.
No.
And so, the producers of the Bond film, but that was just a rumor. No one knows if that's true. Boyle left, and now the two guys who wrote all the Craig films, they're coming back to... I think they already had a script, and then when Danny Boyle came, he was doing his own thing. And then now that he's gone, they came back and kind of redid their script. And Cary Fukunaga is directing the next film, which...
He's a good
really,
director.
really interesting choice. I didn't even think of him for Bond, but so I mean, we know it's good. He's going to direct the shit out of it, but
Is it gonna be good or
really
not?
just
Yeah.
comes down to the script because Spectre really went off the rails. I think one of the problems with the Craig films is they're just going in this really.
Isn't this movie allegedly from the rumor mill? Isn't it like more of a classic Bond story?
That's what they're saying.
Yeah, but look, I like Hollywood as much as the next guy, but I wouldn't believe anything a word in Hollywood, anyone in Hollywood says until the movie's out.
Yeah, they always say that. They always say like we're going to use more practical effects for it, and the movie comes as all CGI. Also we're going to do a more classic Bond film, and then you watch it.
The
and
new
it's like,
Star Wars movie is going to be so true to the original. Yeah, sure. Tell me another one.
Yeah, it's never.
That's interesting. We'll see.
Yeah.
What's also interesting is a little bit related to yesterday, is that the writer Richard Curtis is apparently getting the band back together for Blackadder. Another season.
Yeah.
Where
apparently Rowan Atkinson's like fully behind it as well.
From what I've read, Stephen Fry, Hugh Laurie, Rowan Atkinson, and what's the guy
The guy who played
Tony
Percy?
Robertson?
What about the guy who played
Robinson, yeah.
Is the guy who played Percy still alive?
Yes, I think so.
Which one's Percy?
The tall gentleman.
Blackadder's victim.
Oh, that guy's
basically.
hilarious.
Yeah, Blackadder's victim in most of the seasons.
yeah.
The one he bullies.
Yeah.
Tom McHenry.
Yeah.
Well, allegedly they're all still alive apart from
Rick
Mail, and they had a meeting, and they were everyone was in this sort of university library laughing their asses off.
But it's still like really early stages.
It's still really early, but allegedly what the story will involve would be Blackadder being a university professor in modern day. Which
I think is interesting because then they have the chance to do, if not flashbacks, then they can at least talk about the history that happened throughout the ages.
Because it's such a packed place, like a university. There's lots of people moving around. There's lots of room for interesting scenarios.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because Blackadder 2 and Blackadder 3, they all had really interesting stories. Yeah. Very funny situations.
One of the great things about Blackadder is because each season takes place in a different part of history, it's like your own little period kind of comedy set in a different time. This one being set in modern day kind of takes that away.
Well, did you ever see the movie they made? The Blackadder movie?
Which one?
It was like a little...
Back Again or something?
Yeah, it's like it's Blackadder in modern day.
The Christmas special... Was it a Chris? Well, it wasn't a feature film. Like it was.
I used the term movie loosely.
Yeah.
It was released on like VHS or something. It wasn't very good.
Okay.
Could have been VHS. It could have been.
But anyway, my point is, you take that away from the
back and forth.
Back and forth. Yeah, that's the one.
Back and forth. I might have seen. But anyway, my point is, you take away that historical aspect. You remove something interesting. You set it in a university. Yeah, that has its own sitcom.
It
has its own kind of, it's an interesting place to set it. It's a good setting for a sitcom. But because also he's a history professor, you have the chance for him to revisit.
Yeah, he could be telling students about his
stories,
ancestor,
like,
Blackadder the second, Blackadder the third.
Yeah.
There's some interesting ideas there. As you said though, James, it's a little risky because we don't have the history to play with.
Yeah. Also, I mean, like...
Depends if the script is good.
Well, yeah, also, like, everything now is getting rebooted or spinned off or sequeled or whatever, or remade.
I mean, I guess it's a benefit. If it's going to happen either way, at least we've got Richard Curtis behind it.
If this has the original writers and the original cast, then at least you can say, okay, but, that doesn't mean it's going to be good. It just, it could end up being terrible, but, fingers crossed, hopefully. Yeah. It's English, so it'll be like 4 or 6 episodes, and then that's it. Like they won't try to drag it out.
All killer, no filler.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be quality over quantity kind of situation. But yeah, looking forward to it. But yeah, bit wary of it. Bit wary of how that'll turn out. Should we sign off for the live portion?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Elise says we let her down for not doing Stranger Things this week. But
next week, Stranger Things.
Someone hasn't finished it yet.
Yeah, my bad.
Me and James are sitting here just wanting to talk about it so much.
Oh man, Hopper's shirt.
Oh, Hopper's shirt. Oh, so man. Good. I just want him solving crimes, man.
Oh man, just
his mustache and his chain.
You don't need any that's kind of the mark of it.
It should be noted, sorry to interrupt, that Tony Robinson apparently said that a reboot is not true, but maybe he's only saying that because he wasn't involved. So we'll have to keep it updated.
Still, like we said, it's still early days. I don't think there's any concrete plans for it to come out, but it's just like not announcement, like a rumor kind of.
Yeah, well, at the very least, Rowan Atkinson said he's excited for it.
Yeah.
Now, whether that does not necessarily mean it's going to go ahead, just because the chief actor's involved. If they can't get the supporting cast involved, they should.
That would suck as well if they got Rowan Atkinson.
I do want it. I'm not going to lie. I want it so bad. I'll watch it either way. But the ideal would be a full cast.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just like recasts or new characters introduced.
Yeah, no, definitely.
We'll keep you updated.
Yeah.
All right, that's all for the live show today. Thank you for listening. Up next is Car Talk with Maddie J.
All right, so we're back from the little break between the live and the non-live.
And the definitive.
The unlive, yeah, and the real version of the show. What we're gonna talk. I mean, we're gonna talk about Stranger Things, but we can't. So we'll talk about some other stuff that's been coming up lately in the news, and we've obviously been really excited about all the fantasy and sci-fi stuff that are coming out.
Should we mention Mulan, or are we just going to leave that for another time, or not even talk about it?
I mean, if you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it.
I mean, we can just mention it briefly.
It's just current, that's all. People are talking about it.
Well, go ahead. I mean,
the Too Long Don't Read version there is some drama about the upcoming live adaptation of Mulan, which shouldn't. I don't think anyone agrees it should be made.
No,
but we live in a world where Disney instead of making original movies, they just live action up their existing franchises. So they're adapting Mulan into a version that is more in line with the folktale of Han Mulan.
Hua Mulan.
Yeah, that one. In which the Mushu wasn't a thing. I don't know. I don't think they have songs. I think it's more of like a straight folktale.
It's called the Ballad of Hua Mulan. It's like a
but it doesn't have the Disney songs.
No, that's the Disney. Yeah.
So anyway, people on Twitter are tweeting as they are wont to do.
Yeah.
But the problem is a bunch of people are saying that it's good that Disney is going for a folkloric interpretation because that's what the people of China want to see. But apparently if you go into the Chinese social media websites, some people, I guess people who care about that thing, apparently prefer the Disney version because they think Mushu's good and they prefer the songs and the feel. So it's interesting, So,
like with most of these quote-unquote live-action adaptations of their animated films, they're just remaking the animated films, but in CGI or some small live-action elements, including the songs and the music and so on. In this case, they're remaking the Disney version of the story, but they're removing the songs and musical elements. They're still reusing the instrumentals of the songs, but there's no singing.
Yeah.
And they're removing Mushu the dragon and replacing him with a phoenix.
So they're removing the fun stuff.
Yeah. Now, on one hand, see, Mulan is my second favorite Disney animated film after The Jungle Book. So, I mean, it doesn't matter if it was my least favorite. I'm against all of these quote-unquote live-action remakes. But I think it's interesting that they're not just remaking the animated movie. They're trying to make something that's maybe closer to the original Chinese story. But there's already been adaptations of the original Chinese story in China.
So I think
more than one, and one that came out relatively recently.
This is probably more for Asian Americans than it is for the Chinese audience itself.
But also, as I was talking with you before the show started, the original voice cast, except for Eddie Murphy and Miguel Ferrer, I'm pretty sure all the voice cast was Asian or Asian American in the original Mulan Disney version. So this live action version, it's not like the Aladdin thing where they're like, we're going to correct, we're going to cast ethnically correct cast members. Like, it's purely like Disney, purely money-making exercise.
I think the in terms of what the actual changes are going to be for the screen, I think that getting rid of Mushu in favor of the Phoenix is going to be a CGI costly endeavor. Well,
I mean,
and we haven't seen the Phoenix yet,
so
we don't know.
Mushu is kind of small. Whether he's a dragon or a Phoenix, it's going to be CGI crap.
Yeah.
And one thing I like about the one good thing I'll say about the live-action Mulan teaser is that from what we see is not a lot of CGI crap. At least not as much as all the other quote-unquote live-action remakes. But once we see that Phoenix, it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
Especially because they still haven't really figured out how to do fire.
Yeah, I mean, at least with Mushu, at least he's a little thing.
Yeah.
So you can kind of incorporate him maybe a little easier. Yeah. And he doesn't breathe fire until like the end.
Yeah. So I mean, but
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm sure when the full trailer comes out and they show the big battle scenes, and
I'm sure we'll be disappointed.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
No.
You couldn't pay me to see it. So
you can pay me to see it. I'll enjoy myself, but I'll take money.
Yeah, I mean, depends how much.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm more interested in this than I was in any of the other previous Disney remakes, just because at least they're not going full CGI and full remaking the animated version. But still, it's unnecessary. It's purely milking the cash cow.
For me, that'll be a stand watch.
Yeah. I mean,
if at all. There's other stuff I could watch.
I'm not interested in that at all.
Now, just before we started recording again, you told me something I didn't know before.
Yeah, so what I was getting at before was that I think we've mentioned on the show before that Denis Villeneuve, I think is how he pronounces it.
Villalula.
What are we going to call him?
Old Frenchie.
There was a word we were going to call him.
I don't remember.
It'll come back to me. Continue.
We have to re-listen to that. We did an episode, I think, early on about the Dune casting news. But anyway,
Dune?
That wasn't it.
Dune, that wasn't it, but that's good. That's good. Dune Villeneuve.
Our own personal Wizats Haderach.
Yeah. So, he's making the big kind of Hollywood adaptation of Dune, which we're all excited about because he's a great director. Still not sure how we feel about Blade Runner 2049. But
and look, realistically, we're going to say still not sure how we feel about Dune.
Well, we'll see when it comes out because, we know it'll look nice, but whether they do the story justice, and the cast is insane to a point where I feel like it might be detrimental to the film because there's so many faces in it and so many, that person's so hot right now that we cast them, So we'll see. But anyway, we're really excited for it. And then recently there was news. Everything on our show is like weeks old, but we eventually get around to it, just like we will with Stranger Things. But yeah, they're making a Dune TV series called Dune: The Sisterhood.
But when was that announced?
Quite a while ago.
Man, I don't have my finger on the pulse anymore. I have no idea.
You gotta Reddit more or something because you're always like, what? Surprise face? Also, you have to listen to this show that we do. Even on the episodes you're on, you have to re-listen to it because you're always like, wait, what? When did that happen?
We talked about it last week.
Yeah. But yeah, they're making a Dune TV series about the Bene Gesserit Order.
I'm down for that.
Which is based in the Denis Villeneuve version of the unit, which I'm calling the Duneverse.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I don't know if that's a thing, but if it
is now.
If it isn't, send me a check.
Yeah, it isn't. Yeah.
But Warner Brothers are starting their own streaming service. Warner.
Don't like
so
that.
It's for that, and apparently Warner Brothers and Legendary, who make the new Dune movie, they're planning a larger Duneverse, including video games, comics, and more.
I'm down for all of that.
The games are an interesting point because they're being made by a publisher/developer called Funcom.
Yeah.
Now, Funcom
do good work.
They do good work. Not always successful work.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's right.
They made one of my favorite online games, which tanked, The Secret World. That's a game I think you'd like it if
it's
you
a Lovecraftian horror online RPG.
Do they make just online MMOs?
No,
or
they made Conan. You know the Conan game,
Age of Conan.
Game?
Yeah,
that was very successful.
That's kind of mostly online though. They made Age of Conan, which is their most successful games, and Conan Exiles. Yeah. Is there other successful games? So they have.
This is pointing me towards. It's probably just going to be a Dune MMO or something.
Well, look, they have. See, here's the thing about Funcom: they have range, but like they've had projects before which have been single player games which no one really bought because Funcom is not. They're a big studio, but they're not a big studio in the way that console game developers are. Like they're not Rare. You know what I mean? Like they're not like Microsoft. or Sony or whatever.
Yeah.
Most of their games are largely on PC first, and then if at all, they make the translation to console market.
Yeah,
they haven't always made online games.
Yeah.
One of my favorite. Now this is showing how much of a nerd I am.
Yeah.
One of my favorite genres in video games are like point-and-click adventure games, and they have made two of my favorite adventure games ever made.
Yeah.
The Longest Journey and its sequel Dreamfall 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 The Longest Journey. I think it shared the same name.
Okay, yeah.
But they also made Dreamfall chapters went to a different studio. So they made some adventure games.
I mean, they have range.
I think there was a Dune point and click.
It was an RTS game, yeah.
But I think there was a point and click adventure back in the day.
They could have been.
Jamie looked that up.
I'll look it up. But this studio is doing three games, one of which is we don't know anything other than it's an open world online RPG.
Yeah. So I mean, it'll be exciting to see what they do with this kind of larger Dune universe. But yeah, the game company it's probably just pure.
Look, I wouldn't worry yet because, like I said, they have a good past history. They have range.
For me,
it just depends on the back and take.
For me, it looks like this might be more of a tie-in online only kind of game. That's not really.
Now, I would argue the opposite because that's risky. Online games are risky, especially if it's not on a console. So if Funcom is not, they don't exactly specialize.
Maybe not online, but maybe something that's more not a single player story driven experience.
Well, I mean, we don't know anything about the game yet, so
but just from the business minded Warner Media, I think they'd definitely go for something that's a bit more about making money and getting players hooked for a long period of time rather than pulling a Sony and saying, here's your really kind of beautiful, atmospheric single-player experience.
I would be, on one hand, if it was a full-blown online game, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, that takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money, it's risky. So I think that what we'll end up with is a game that might have some online components, but also might have some single-player components.
We'll see, more Dune is a good thing, but dumping all this Dune stuff at once, all set in, possibly all set in the same Villeneuve kind of universe, it's risky, but also it could just feel kind of stale very quickly.
The Dune game was both the strategy game and the adventure game. It had two parts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. When so we're talking about it came out in the 80s or 90s?
92.
Yeah, so it was old school pixel stuff. So that would be cool, another point and click or, something kind of where you get to explore the world and
and something like Dune, the more narrative it is, the better.
Yeah, because the world is so rich and dense and, expansive.
I would say Telltale, but they're not a company anymore.
No.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
I think something like that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A sort of a Telltale-esque adventure in that universe.
Yeah.
You said Dune comics as well.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
But see, again, if this is all set in the Villeneuve universe, which is fine. I mean, I'm assumingly will be fine. But yeah, it's is it just going to have the same... Everything's going to have the same look. Do you know what I mean? Everything's going to start to feel stale very quickly. You're going to dump all this stuff.
Well, I suppose the thing about the comics is not necessarily. It depends on... You could theoretically have the comics on a different planet or on a ship.
Yeah, I feel because there's a lot of Dune books.
Too many. So I think he made what? So Frank Herbert made 3.
Frank Herbert made 3.
And then other people...
His son and other authors made... I think there's 16 or something over a long period of time.
From what I haven't read most of them, but from what I understand, after Frank Herbert, most of them are trash.
Yeah, I love you, Frank, but pass.
So I think that,
on the books.
Oh, yeah, you're not going to even try.
Oh, look, I would read them, but like I said, most of them are apparently not very good.
No, but at least there's... it might be bad, but in
terms of world building, resources
heaps,
at their disposal. Yeah.
But again, it depends what Villeneuve is doing, what Warner wants to do. is he going to kind of make his movie version, and then all the comics and video games and other stuff is just going to be a spin-off of that? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm assuming.
Yeah, because especially with this TV show... In terms of like
the comics, right, if, like you said, they want to keep the aesthetics the same, you're going to need the movie to come out first so you can have some basis
also,
for
like, I mean, I'm sure we talked about this before, but Dune is extremely influential. It's classic sci-fi.
It's also complicated.
It's extremely... But it's complicated, and it's also... If you say, have you read Dune or have you seen the Dune, like the Lynch version or whatever, most people don't know what you're talking about. Like, Dune influenced so much, including Star Wars, but it never rose to the level of Star Wars, at least not in the mainstream. So this new movie version will bring it to the mainstream Hollywood. You know?
Yeah.
But
I think the problem with Dune is its weirdness.
Yeah, but that's actually... I feel like we're repeating ourselves from an earlier episode, but... I like the weirdness.
Yeah, it's the best.
You've got to keep the weirdness. That's why a lot of people don't like the Lynch version.
Yeah,
and I understand why. And I know Lynch adds his own weirdness on top of the already weirdness.
David Lynch get asked to do a weird adaptation, like an adaptation of a weird text.
Yeah, but it's like,
what do you think is going to?
It's a weird text, but then Lynch, takes it to his next level, almost, to its detriment.
I
at
liked
times.
it,
but
though. I mean,
no, I think it's a really good movie. People bash it unfairly, but. I feel like if you're going to make, Denis Villeneuve, his films are very slick, very modern. That's fine. I like the way his films look and feel, but I also want that kind of weirdness.
Yeah, you have to retain that.
And because, when the original Dune movie came out, there was no internet. They had to, because of the weird world, they had to print like a glossary, like a what do you call it? Like of the terms in the movie, and that's one of the reasons it failed, because people we don't want to have to learn, but I think that's the fun of it. It's such a dense, rich world. Like there's so much going on, and I feel like Villeneuve's version will be able to do that, but also. Then his version is going to become the one version that everyone knows. You're going to say, have you seen Dune? And people are going to go, oh, the new version that just came out, that's going to be the one version. And everything, all the comics and video games and TV shows spin-off, that'll just be it'll all just feel kind of samey. And the huge world of Dune will end up feeling small because it's just the Villeneuve version.
Yeah, so we should, just for context... There's been previously a Dune movie by David Lynch. Yeah. There's also been a Dune TV show. I think at least was there two or just one?
Two HBO miniseries. HBO? There was two cable miniseries in the early 2000s.
Now I didn't see those, but I heard they're very good.
They're not bad. The production value isn't very good, but because they have a longer time to tell the story, it's a bit more accurate to the book and so on.
We run the risk of Denis' version being the definitive version when there's already stuff to draw on. I'm like, that's kind of not... I don't want to use the term not fair, but that's kind of not fair to the people who came before. Especially when you consider that fact that gentleman who wanted to make the movie started with J.
Jodorowsky.
Yeah. His version, from what I've seen, was going to be incredible.
That would, but
it never got. He never got it off the ground.
But that would have been amazing. But it wouldn't have been Dune. It would have been Jodorowsky doing Dune, just the way kind of Lynch was doing Dune. I feel like Villeneuve might be trying to maybe. You can't really do it accurate to the novel because I don't know how well that would translate. But we talked
more
about
a straight adaptation.
We talked about how Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy became the definitive version of the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
screen book
iconic.
To screen.
It became iconic,
and I don't think in 100 years you could never better that.
No, yeah.
Whereas Dune, you had the Lynch movie in the 80s, you had the TV miniseries in the early 2000s. And it never reached its full potential. This version could be, the definitive version, depending on. But I feel like with this kind of world, it might just the more adaptations over the years, the better.
The difference I would say is that number one, Tolkien's source material is arguably the greatest fantasy literature ever made. Now, Dune, while it's up there in the pantheon of science fiction, it's not perfect.
Well, I mean, when because Tolkien's such a genius.
Well, yeah, it's
there's that, but I feel like the world building and craziness of Dune, it's definitely a cut above the rest.
Yeah, it is.
Like in terms of the classic sci-fi novels and world building, his is up there.
Yeah.
Like you've got Lord of the Rings at the top maybe, but Dune is also up there.
I suppose the only way you could get a real definitive version...
Because you wouldn't have Star Wars without Dune. Like George Lucas just ripped off Dune for most of the world, like universe of Star Wars.
The only the problem I would have is, and this, I don't know what the budget is for this film, but if you want
to be huge.
If you want to do a definitive Dune version, man, you're gonna have to spend some money.
That's another thing I'm worried about is like the amount of CGI they're gonna have to use.
Like Peter Jackson did use CGI, but
and again,
a lot of Lord of the Rings was practical.
Yeah, again, like Villeneuve, even 2049, not sure how I feel about it. That did use a lot of practical elements along with the CGI. So if he can have that good balance, that good blend.
Yeah, look, I want to see like plastic fake worms coming out of a sandbox.
Oh man,
you know what I mean?
Dude, I reckon the special effects in the Lynch version look awesome.
Yeah, they are.
Like they're just mid 80s peak special effects. Like Return of the Jedi had just come out the year before. Like this was like the best special effects they were getting at the time. Still looks great.
Look, when the what are the people who assist in travel?
Oh yeah, those weird
when
things,
when that thing comes in on its enclosure into the palace or whatever, insanely cool.
Dude, like this, if this movie isn't weird as hell and rated R, I'm gonna be so pissed off.
I think there's a good chance it'll just be M, but it might be weird.
I think PG. Yeah, it'll be PG-13, but with some weirdness. But yeah, like you got to have that weirdness.
Yeah, just turn it up to 11.
Just the idea of the spice and the way they travel through
I like the
universe.
idea on the rating system. It's just got like it's M for us, PG-13 in America. Just weird scenes.
Weird scenes. They've put stuff like that before. I don't remember the exact term they use, but it's like just strange.
I know in children's movies there's like frightening scenes.
Yeah. But like I know they've put stuff like just like something like strange scenes or something, like because the people watching the movie don't know how to define it, but they know that it's a bit weird for a kids' film, so they're just like, here's
it's nothing offensive, it's just
unsettling,
weird, unsettling.
I remember when what's his name, Alex? I forget his last. Alex Proyas made Dark City in the late 90s.
That's a good film.
The studio wanted to cut it to PG-13. And so he did, and they gave it to the ratings board, and the ratings board was like, "No, it's R," and they're like, "No, but we cut everything out. Like it's clean. It's like yeah, but it's just weird." And so he's like, "Well, screw it. I'm going to put all the crazy stuff, all the violence and stuff back in."
If it's going to be R,
which thank God, because that movie would suck as PG-13.
That was a good film. They don't make movies like that anymore.
Yeah, like that. That's a good movie. That's a good sci-fi movie. But yeah. The new version of Dune, looking forward to it, but a bit wary of how it'll turn out.
Yeah.
I think he said that it's going to be 2 films, like back to back. So,
I'd be down with that. That means he's taking his time.
Exactly, which means they'll actually be able to tell a version of the full story.
Yeah, you could make a compelling reason to cut it into 2 movies. Like, if you had it ends with him in the desert, and then the second half is like the revolution.
One of the problems people have with the Lynch version is that it's just a very kind of Cliff Notes kind of.
Yeah, I've heard it referred to as the greatest hits of the book.
Sort of, yeah. So,
which I don't agree. I mean, I can see where they're coming from.
See, with a book like Dune, it's just so hard to adapt.
But I can also, I mean, we've talked about this before off air, but it's like you just have to pay attention. You can follow. You can follow along with the story.
The first time I saw Lynch's movie, I didn't really know anything about it or the Dune or whatever. I was able to follow it by paying attention. It's weird, but yeah. But yeah, I think because and then the miniseries came out and that was like 3 or so episodes each, and that could tell the story over a longer period of time. And so now you've got, if this is like 2.
Hopefully 2 3-hour movies.
Yeah, assumedly over 2 hours, two movies. So hopefully they'll be able to tell. Again, the adaptation is going to be too hard, but they'll be able to tell a more accurate version without rushing, and hopefully have all the weird stuff. Apparently, the first Dune movie comes out on November 20th, 2020. So not too far away, but
it's a lifetime away, James.
Well. And the year's gone pretty fast so far, so we're going pretty quick. So, but yeah, and and the cast is insane.
Yeah, look, I'm just surprised Keanu was in it. Paul will now be played by Keanu.
He'll pop up. He can pop up in the sequel, like in the TV series. But yeah, the series focusing on the Bene Gesserit, it's interesting.
I'm keen.
I think again, like the world building, the weirdness. I'd be down. Like I'm down.
I don't know how that would play out in today's era though, because that order is not very
well.
From what I remember, the concept of the order is they breed with important people, so they can produce a messiah.
They basically.
It's not very Handmaid's Tale kind of friendly.
Yeah, they're like a religious order of nuns who basically have a strict breeding program.
Yeah, it's like genetic manipulation kind of
nuns
stuff.
with eugenics.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they think their messiah will be born out of perfecting this line of perfect genetics.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. I mean, the way they talk about it, bringing this TV show to life, they're like, it'd be really interesting, in 2019 to bring out the female. This show has become a feminist exploration,
well, look, I'm just interested in is it going to be a straight adaptation or are they going to change it a little bit?
I kind of hope they don't change too much, because the weirdness is kind of the
fact that
the
they're
tabooness is kind of the fun.
Right. You know what I mean? Like the fact that the order is right and that the Messiah can't be produced.
No, because Jessica went against the orders.
That's true.
To have Paul. So technically, the Messiah was born from outside of there. So they were wrong.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Dune is so fucking cool, man. Dune is so weird. Was it the Hitzak?
Hitzak something like that.
Wizak Haderach.
Wizak. Yeah,
it's so good.
I had it before.
Yeah.
The Wizats Haderach.
Wizak Haderach. Oh man. Ballsack Haderach. So cool. Oh man, I'm excited. The spice must flow.
I just want to see. Are they going to have those? Do you remember the iconic scene from Lynch's Dune where he's walking up the desert and he's got the equipment on, and he's got that thing on his back.
Dude's movie, David Lynch's Dune movie looks really cool.
No, we know when we went through our friend Daniel's to watch it for the first time, and I'm telling everyone you have to watch this. Dune's amazing, and everyone's like, "This is kind of crap, Callum. Can we turn this?" I'm like, "No, stick with it." We get to that scene, and I'm like, you know this scene, right? You haven't seen the movie, but you've seen this scene. And
it's
I'm
like
they put on this. That's what they did in The Simpsons, didn't they? Or is it in
probably
Family Guy?
Well,
one of the cartoons. I'm like, you see the characters with like the stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to see Denis' interpretation of the what do they call them? Like the desert suits. The
still suits.
I want to see those. Yeah. That's what I'm keen for.
Yeah. But I mean,
because Lynch's still suits are iconic.
Yeah,
like the sick looking,
anyway.
The black suits, they're suave. Like I think the costume design in Lynch's was incredible.
Even I like the sets. I like the sandworms. Like everything looks really cool.
The costume designers are going to have their work cut out for them if they want to present a new definitive version. They have a lot of work.
Yeah, it'll be hard to. Because a lot of people don't know Lynch's version or don't care about it. Like I'm sure whatever they do, people will be fine.
But we'll know.
We'll know. We'll be secretly salty, secretly spicy.
Yeah, spicy. Yeah, hopefully there'll be a lot of spicy memes out of this film.
This has to be a lot of spicy memes. Whoever controls the spice
controls the universe.
But
a lot of people know that quote, but they don't know where it comes from because apparently Alum had heard that quote. Our friend Alum had heard that quote, but in a Rick and Morty context.
Yeah. See, Dune is so influential throughout all of sci-fi and
nerds
fantasy.
like Dune and nerds write the shows.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. That's why you get all those sci-fi references in like cartoons and sitcoms and stuff. But yeah, what was I going to say? I just want weird spice, just hallucinations,
just weird shit. Yeah,
more weird shit. We need more weird shit in the mainstream. Capacity.
Yep.
Get on it, Lynch. Do something.
Lynch, make a comeback. Wait, you kind of did.
And I still don't know how I feel.
Try again.
So in that way, Lynch and Villeneuve are the same. We don't know how we feel about their latest works. Well, speaking of nerding out about sci-fi and fantasy shows, we just talked about Dune. Last week we talked about The Witcher and the Sandman.
Adam Sandler?
Stop it! It's not funny. I know you love Adam Sandler.
I'm sorry, but every time you mention the Sandman, I'm going to think of Adam Sandler.
When you say the Sandman, no one thinks of Adam Sandler.
That's what he calls himself. That's what Adam Sandler calls himself.
But like no one listening would think that. No one in the world. When you say the Sandman, Sandler is like on the bottom of the list. First it might be Spider-Man villain. Then it might be the Neil Gaiman comic.
Sandman is Adam Sandler.
Then it might be the song Mr. Sandman, Send Me a Dream. Then maybe Sandler.
Yeah, maybe.
He's my Sandman.
Yeah, no, because you're in love. But no one else is thinking that. But anyway, we did talk about The Witcher and Sandman and now Dune and a lot of other Dark Crystal we mentioned.
Yeah.
So, it's good. It's a good time to be a nerdy guys. Honestly, with a pop culture podcast.
Yeah. It's a good time to be grown-ass nerdy men because all our shit's getting rebooted. Yeah. It's all in vogue now. Like, Star Wars is cool. Like,
even though it sucks.
Yeah, Star Wars is bad, but it's cool now. You know what I mean? Like, there was a time when none of this shit was cool.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
like now.
Yeah,
we're not cool.
Well,
we're not cool. We'll never be cool. Yeah, but the stuff we like is cool.
Superheroes used to be like, oh, that's a nerdy, kid thing.
Yeah.
Now Marvel,
and then it was a grown man thing.
Now Marvel is like,
now it's everyone's
thing. So popular in pop culture. That's like everyone goes to see Marvel.
Yeah, and
movies,
that's really good.
Yeah. But yeah, so Netflix not only has The Witcher, Dark Crystal, The Sandman, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But they're also doing the Narnia series, which I think
They're making a Narnia show?
Yeah. See? This is exactly what I said, Nathan.
So when was this?
Callum's like, what?
When was this?
They announced it last year. I'm pretty sure we talked about it on the old show.
Yeah. Oh, well, I probably forgot about it. What are they adapting exactly? The whole thing?
The whole book series.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Like a re-adaptation. Because the movies screwed it up and they never got to finish.
I understand that Narnia is technically aimed at children. But I got a little excited when you said that.
No, I'm down. I'm excited.
This is an interesting one because this was like a little quiet announcement and they haven't really followed it up.
Yeah, they haven't. But as far as I know, they're still working on it.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
It's not just a...
I'm stoked.
I mean, it comes on the tail of Netflix apparently saying they're going to slow down on their budget spending with movies. But it's like, are they...
Is it a TV adaptation or a movie adaptation?
It'd be a TV. I'm
sorry to interrupt you there.
I think it was
Well,
TV.
it must be, right? If they're doing all the things.
Now,
show. But it's like, there's been reports saying that they're slowing down because they spent too much money on... what's a Ben Affleck movie we watched?
The one...
Triple Frontier.
Triple Frontier. Allegedly, Triple Frontier costs a lot of money and it's causing Netflix to rethink how much it spends on...
Wait, that one was the one that had to rethink?
What a waste, right? Like, I didn't hate it, but if you're going to spend like a gazillion dollars, like, at least give it to the fucking Witcher. What are you doing?
Out of all the movies they've been releasing, like, that was the one that took all the money?
But it's like, with all the competition... I think we talked about this off air the other day. With all the competition coming out, Disney... They lost
we just talked about the Warner Media streaming, CBS All Access.
Yeah, and with Netflix losing The Office, it's like now's not the time to be not spending money, guys. You need to. It's like the competition's a wall. Netflix needs to keep spending to break through it.
Yeah,
because if they stop spending now, they're going to lose.
Yeah,
but it seems like they can't really stop spending that much money when they've got all these assumed high budget.
Yeah.
Top tier fantasy and science fiction franchises,
especially now that they picked up the Sandman. Like, God, you have to spend money
on that. Yeah, I mean, all these, The Witcher, like the money you have to spend to bring it to life.
But Narnia, huh?
Yeah, so apparently it's a series and movies. So I don't know what that means.
That means Netflix is going all in.
Yeah, but like I think.
So what's the series and what's going to be the movies?
I don't know, but I think back in the old show when Nathan and I were talking about it, because the Narnia movies never really got finished. They were never really that good.
The first one was pretty good.
Yeah.
And they sort of just
kind of fizzled out. Yeah. They had to recast a few actors. Like, it's like, it would be good to see, Netflix do a full adaptation from start to finish, kind of like the Harry Potter movies, all the same cast, except for Dumbledore. But, all the same cast, Keep everything, keep the style, like, instead of like...
Keep it coherent.
Yeah, instead of like make a few movies and
consistent,
then
I should say.
Yeah, and then they start to not make money and then they just stop them, like, so yeah, it'll be good to see.
Look, there's a lot of weird stuff in Narnia, like from a fantasy perspective, it employs really interesting systems, like portals, like kids go in and they can age completely and then come out the same age.
Yeah.
Like there's all kinds of interesting ideas which I would love to see explored in a TV context.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean?
I didn't see all the movies that they made, but I don't think they really explored everything.
Have you watched The Magicians?
No.
They explore very similar concepts to Narnia.
Lev Grossman, I don't want to use the term ripped off because it's, frankly, Les Grossman took what was presented to him by C.S. Lewis, and in my mind, he modernized it. So I won't say he bettered it.
If you want to watch what Narnia could be,
if Narnia was made today and it wasn't made for children, you would essentially get The Magicians. But Narnia is actually a very deep text in terms of world building. I'd love to see it play out long form, and like Magicians, as Nathan was saying, is a perfect counterbalance to that as well.
Yeah,
deep world building for adults. Which again, I don't know why we're talking about Magicians. I just love the show.
Well, no, I was saying there are some elements.
You're saying is similar,
there are some elements of Narnia used.
He kind of did rip off C.S. Lewis.
But I mean, like with Dune, it's like if something is influential, like someone's going to take that and build upon it and modernize it, and but I'm excited to see what they do with it, and like
especially if it's long form, like the longer the better. Take your time, stretch your legs.
I mean, I would be happy if they were just doing another movie series, but only if they could sign on people like for the whole run.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as you said,
and guarantee they're all going to be made. Because
and they keep people coming back if there's a new movie on Netflix every year.
Yeah.
Like if they enjoy one movie, they can resubscribe if they let it lapse in the next year for the next movie.
Yeah, true. Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Like have it be an annual sort of tradition, like the new Narnia movie on Netflix this Christmas.
The new season, like the Stranger Things, how they treat Stranger Things, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting idea. Yeah, like make it their...
Yeah, because like Netflix
it's going to be a continuing thing. We're not going to let
It's a constant. Yeah,
it's like this is one thing we're not going to cancel.
We're committing to it.
Yeah, I think if they can say that and say we're not going to cancel this, we're going to see this out till the end.
Yeah, so even if the fourth movie out of 7 or whatever doesn't do so well, you commit to doing the full run.
Yeah.
So by the end of it, you have a comprehensive and frankly definitive Narnia telling on your platform.
That would be exciting if they pull that off.
Yeah,
and that's the sort of thing that will get rewatched for years and years and years.
Oh man, yeah, definitely. And there's not, Harry Potter, I guess, is the best example. But other than that, like, it's usually like just, Lord of the Rings is 3 movies. So, you don't have to, elongate it.
I mean, even Star Wars has a whole different cast for like each trilogy, basically.
Yeah, but even that's like not an adaptation of a 7-book series or whatever.
That's true. Yeah,
and Game of Thrones screwed it up, so Netflix is to the rescue. With The Witcher and Narnia.
Oh man, it's a good time to be a Netflix subscriber.
Dark
Netflix
Crystal.
should just start paying us because you jerk them off every week.
Dude, I mean, we need some serious sponsorship. So in terms of other fantasy stuff, HBO has the Game of Thrones prequel, obviously.
I'm not excited.
I'll be honest, I don't care. Like,
look. I mean, I invested so long into
then you got
the series, and I got burned. But D&D aren't involved. The showrunners of the Game of Thrones aren't involved in this one. So I mean, we'll see how that goes. But I mean, that's at least gonna
at least the production quality will be decent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they're also doing his Dark Materials series.
Now I never read the books.
Yeah.
But a lot of people who I admire.
Yeah.
On Twitter and so on, love the books.
So, but like, because they made that Golden Compass movie, which is based on the His Dark Materials book series, but it was like a kid-friendly,
from what I understand,
whitewashed kind of.
From what I understand, the books are a little darker.
Yeah,
I haven't read them.
Yeah, no, much darker apparently, and that movie did really poorly, and apparently was only like a very small chunk of the story.
Well, I mean, there are some properties which just shouldn't be made into films.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
This is the same thing we've been talking about Narnia. It's like if you're going to make a movie set on a 7-book series or whatever, and then it fails, and then you just never get to see the end of the series, you know?
Then it's pointless.
So, yeah. So, I mean, that could happen with the TV show because it could get cancelled, but at least the HBO His Dark Materials adaptation has a better chance to tell the story properly and over a longer period of time.
One thing you can say about HBO, and granted, I will admit, Game of Thrones had a massive success run. They do commit.
Oh yeah.
So like Sopranos, they do
cancel.
But The Sopranos was the biggest show on television at the time.
That was the Game of Thrones of the 90s.
Before, that was before premium cable shows were a thing. Like it was Oz and the Sopranos. Like that was it.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah. But like.
But they do commit. I mean, they committed to.
They cancelled The Brink
for Game of Thrones.
That's the other thing. They do cancel some stuff. So we'll have to see. But I think after Game of Thrones, this might be their next big fantasy kind of show. And obviously they're going to commit to the production value. James McAvoy's in it. Have you seen the trailer?
Of what? His Dark Materials?
Yeah, there's a trailer.
I think I have, but I can't remember it.
Daphne King's in it, X-23 from Logan.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. It looks good. And it's, the darker... It's on HBO, so they can do whatever they want.
Do you love a bit of James McAvoy?
Yeah. So, I'm excited for that as well. And then also, we've got, obviously, the Amazon Lord of the Rings series, which we're all...
Man... You know what? I said that Denis... No, I said that Denis was our Wizard's Hatterack.
Yeah.
But that's Bezos. You know that's Bezos.
Bezos, yeah.
He sees... Again, he's a nerd himself.
Yeah.
He sees a property, he's like, how much money do you want?
Yeah.
I'm like... the fact that it's the first season's like, what, literally $1 billion budget?
Well, yeah, I still don't believe that. That's insane.
That's what Google says.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to retread too much ground, but there's not a day goes by.
So Amazon has Lord of the Rings, then obviously Wheel of Time, which we talked about, I think, last week.
I'm surprised anyone's giving that.
Haven't people been cast in that recently?
Yes.
Yeah, Rosamund Pike, I think you said.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. As Moiraine, one of the principal female leads.
Yeah, so that's another,
that's a pretty big casting choice.
Yeah, that's another big, how many, there was quite a few books in that series.
13.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're all chunky boys too.
Yeah, so it's like... Yeah, committing to a series of adaptations, a series, and this is like more adult fantasy as well, right? Or is it?
Yes. So it's Lord of the Rings-esque in that there is some violence,
adventuring. Yeah.
There is some sex. So not like Lord of the Rings, I guess, but. It's you could do it for all ages comfortably. So an M15 rating, and that would still be true.
You could get away with the PG-13 kind of.
Yeah, and you wouldn't be going against the.
But it's also Amazon, so they can get away with anything they want. So they could maybe add a little bit of darkness here and there. Matureness, I should say.
I'm surprised people haven't taken a chance in this day and age, and I can understand why it is a bit dark. But the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever.
Man, that's not as famous as you think it is. That's why.
I never said it was famous.
No, but there's 1,000 different really cool fantasy.
No, but I think it'd be interesting to adapt something that wasn't super famous.
The reason I think it should be adapted is not because it's famous. That's not a good standard for adapting a product.
No, but usually when they're looking at they want to make something that's going to sell, a known brand.
Yeah, but that's boring.
Yeah, but then why would...
That's what they do. That's what they do, but that's the boring business mindset they always complain about.
If that's true, why are any original products made? Why are any original TV shows made?
Yeah.
Because they don't have any brand recognition.
Yeah.
So my point is, Thomas Covenant provides an alternative to the Narnia world. It's for adults. It's darker in tone.
Yeah.
And there is a shocking rape scene at the start of the first book, but you can adapt that. It's an adaptation. You don't have to do it straight.
Well,
and it's a weird, dangerous world. So it would be good for HBO or one of the other premium services to look into.
Considering all these fantasy series being adapted, that, eventually could happen. But also, like we say, there's a business mindset behind it. And also, the weird, they stray away from the weird stuff most of the time. But these streaming services also have Netflix especially, have really weird stuff on them. Yeah. So, there's a good chance eventually it might happen. But yeah, probably not anytime soon. But there's so much other stuff coming out, in terms of fantasy. Like I said, Amazon has Lord of the Rings, Wheel of Time. They're also apparently bought the rights to Conan the Barbarian. So, an Amazon Conan the Barbarian series would be...
Like people have pointed out once before, because they're remaking Red Sonja. someone?
Oh, that's been in the pipeline for a long time. I don't know if that's ever...
It'd be really interesting if they cast Arnold as King Conan. The old stage King Conan. Yeah. I'd love that.
If they could do like a Logan-esque King Conan, like Amazon...
Aren't you getting excited just thinking about
it? A movie or a series.
One Last Quest?
Yeah. Oh, man, that would be... But if not, them doing just a straight series adaptation of the books, you know... That would be cool. Like Amazon, you know, Amazon production value, you know, no content restrictions.
I think we say it's quite a lot. Amazon as a service has a lot of, let's say, bargain bin content, but their originals always top class.
Yeah, and, you know, they had the Deathstalker movies, which we talked about on the old show, which are basically just Conan rip-offs. So it's up their alley. But yeah, that would be cool to see like a, you know, big budget Conan series.
Even if they did like a new Conan, obviously not Arnie.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Like they stuck to it, and you could have more movies.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is like, you know, like an actual good adaptation of Conan, like a really gritty kind of, you know, like dark and violent adaptation. You know, it doesn't matter if Arnie's not in it. Just you know, do another. And Showtime is doing the King Killer Chronicles.
I haven't read that. Is that what's the name of the first book? Saying
I don't
Wind.
remember. Yeah, I don't know, but like,
I have it, and everyone loves it, but I've never read it.
Yeah, so like it's in terms of fantasy, and this is just the stuff that's kind of
I'm pretty sure
the
that's
pipeline.
Super dark as well.
Yeah, and this is just the stuff that's in the pipeline. I didn't put any stuff that's you know, just announced or just rumored. Like this is stuff that's in sort of being made.
Yeah, The Name of the Wind.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a really dark fantasy series.
Yeah.
Written in first person, which I hate, so that's why I haven't read the book, because
and who's behind the wrong way.
Showtime. So now, again, no content restrictions,
that's
violence.
A risk.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure that's super dark.
Well, and that'll come to us via Stan, most likely.
Yeah, because they made a deal with Showtime.
That's interesting. That's exciting.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is these Netflix, HBO, Amazon, Showtime... One, they put a lot of money into their production value. Two, none of these services have content restrictions, violence, sex, nudity, swearing. It's all up for grabs. And they all have these big fantasy series in the work. So it's a very, very exciting time.
Oh, man. It's a good time to be a nerd.
Especially in
I didn't even know they were adapting that.
Exactly. So especially in the time that we always complain, in the time of soft kiddie reboots and remakes of movies, you know, so it's good to have these streaming services that are just like, screw it, we'll do whatever we want, you know. And you know, this isn't even counting the stuff that's already that's already come out, or you know, sci-fi stuff, or you know, action drama stuff. This is just the fantasy stuff that fits in with our Witcher kind of Sandman conversation from last week, and of course Lord of the Rings, which you know, will always come up.
Like Star Wars, let's get sent into Star
Wars. Now that we know it's being made, that can't go away.
Like, I think we made this joke last time. Like when that comes out, it'll just become a Lord of the Rings podcast. Like the show will just become Lord of the Rings podcast.
Did you see what happened this week? Oh my god!
Yeah. Oh my god. Even if it's bad, I can't
believe Bezos found an actual dragon.
He got a company to genetically engineer a dragon. But yeah, so very exciting time, and especially for like adult-oriented stuff, you know, stuff where they don't have to worry about also certain words or, you know, showing a nipple. Think about
the stuff that we don't know about that's around the corner, you know, as well.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and original stuff, and you know, like other adaptations that
projects that are getting pitched now that we would die to see.
I wonder how hard they're pushing for. Again, I don't know if they would or not, because they already have similar shows. But like Cyberpunk, will we see an adaptation?
Oh, the game, yeah.
When the game's released, will Netflix announce an adaptation?
We talked about how they're doing the Altered Carbon live action season 2. They're doing an Altered Carbon anime. They're doing a Blade Runner anime, and they're doing Cowboy Bebop.
You know what? I was going to say this. So Narnia's coming back. We got Lord of the Rings. We got we got Cyberpunk coming back.
Yeah.
I feel like we're in like the late 80s.
Yeah, but it's like
in a good way.
It's good instead of like the kind of, you know, other movies that have been coming out, like the kind of, you know, the other reboots and stuff where it's just like purely nostalgia jerk offs, and this is like, all right, we're going to finally get the good adaptation of this, you know.
Do you reckon they'll do a Cyberpunk adaptation on Netflix?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is they've already got all this cyberpunk stuff in the pipeline.
Yeah, it'd cheapen Altered Carbon though. So
yeah, it'd compete with Altered Carbon. But they do have the rights to Witcher. But that's the books, not the games. Yeah. So Cyberpunk 2077 being made by CD Projekt, who made the Witcher game, they don't. It's like it's close but separated enough. So. You know,
they don't have. Yeah, that's right.
But a Cyberpunk 2077 series, you know, from any big streaming service would be really interesting. But we'll also have to see how the Cowboy Bebop series does and how, because I mean
it's gonna suck.
It's not going to be. But Altered Carbon did pretty well with the production side. You know, they spent a lot of money on that. But you know, like Cowboy Bebop and Cyberpunk, you're gonna have to
Can't forget Mute.
You're gonna have to
in terms of Cyberpunk.
Yeah, but you know, that production wise wasn't perhaps, you know, as big as you know, like.
Yeah, sorry about that. Off at a tangent.
No, yeah, but the production value of those shows, of Cowboy Bebop, of Altered Carbon, you know, wouldn't have to be extreme. Of, you know, if they did a Cyberpunk series based on the tabletop or based on the video game, would have to be huge.
Yeah.
So I mean, it would be, you know, great to see it, but. You know, it's not anything that will probably come out, at least not for the foreseeable future, unless CD Projekt decides to branch out into TV honestly, by teaming up with a streaming service or something.
I think they'd be more likely to release it as an anime.
Yeah, probably.
I'm still down for that.
Yeah, I think it's just easier
Keanu
for Netflix.
Reeves voice his character from the game.
Oh, if they did a Johnny Silverhand Flash prequel anime series.
That'd be dope.
Send us a check.
So I'm down.
That should be you know, because one of the reasons we don't have opening theme song to this show is because I don't like opening theme songs to podcasts. It's just wasting time before you listen to them. Also, I can't be bothered, you know, getting you know, someone to make one. But if we did make one, it should probably be like, send us a check, send us a check, send us a check, send us a check, check. All right, enough.
I think so. I think we're good.
Covered a few bases. Didn't we?
Yeah, we got through a lot. Sorry about not talking about Stranger Things, but
next week. I'm sorry. Next week. No,
yeah, but that'll just mean next week we can do the full 2 hours on Stranger Things and nerd out.
We'll need it.
Oh, definitely. I'm so excited, and I've got like fan theories and like
it's gonna be
ideas and all sorts of crazy stuff. So, yeah, excited for that.
All right, cool.
Callum, take us out.
Thank you for listening. Like and share the Tuesday Review Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter at Tuesday Review AU. You can follow James on Instagram at Channel Drifter. You can find our previous episodes on your favorite podcasting app. If you like video games, please check out Alum and Jake's show Sunrise Arcade. If you like automotive discussion, please check out Matty J's show Car Talk, TORQUE. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the Tuesday Review on iTunes. It helps us a lot. Adios, cousins.